Fame Committee, Coach Iris Iglesias, Ronnie Zamora, Manuel Hinojosa, and Tony Guerrero, all joining us here this afternoon on Real Sports Live. Thanks for joining the show, ladies and gentlemen. And how have you guys been?
Doing good, thank you.
Doing well, thank you.
Trying to stay safe.
Oh, doing fine over here.
Definitely. Yeah, it's been some crazy times. These last couple of months, I think it's been about a month since Iris and I last talked on our show about some softball and where we're at now in the sports world. As a Hall of Fame committee and as a sports enthusiast, how have you guys been coping with there being no live sports to watch or be a part of? Ronnie, we'll start with you.
Nothing to watch on TV, except old football games and old baseball games. Kind of miss all the live action.
Tony?
Definitely.
Hello?
Tony, how about you?
Great. I've been watching all football games, but I'm still betting on the wrong team.
Manuel?
Baseball. I miss baseball. I would be, and if there was a game in Houston, I'd be over there right now, but I just can't even watch it on TV.
Right, I agree, definitely. Iris?
Just watching all the old, replays and reruns that they're having on, whether it be softball, even football, the Cowboy games even, and hoping that they would pull that one out, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, it does get old and you're wanting to see some live stuff. Hey, we're coping. We're kind of rolling with the punches.
Absolutely. Again, as a committee and kind of just being on the outside looking in at all these programs with the strength and conditioning was able to get picked up and going again. And then, we're starting to see the schools shut them back down. Only a handful of schools are continuing with the strength and conditioning. What were you guys' thoughts on that? On one, seeing the kids go back to strength and conditioning, and then, we're maybe 10 days later to where everything got shut down again. Iris, we'll start with you.
I think the effort, was made to try to get a little bit of normalcy back. And it might have been, maybe too soon. But we were trying, and I think now that we're seeing more and more cases coming up, the positive case today, I drove by a line in Mission that was, wanting to be tested, and it was just tremendous. I bet it was over a mile long. And but it is a scary time, and trying to get our kids back. Yeah, I'm sure everyone is concerned, major concerned, and as soon as one positive comes out, then it's gonna be a domino effect, and everybody's gonna shut down. And I think at least the effort was made, and let's see, hopefully we can get through this.
Ronnie, you're still well involved with the schools, Los Fresnos, where you work. How has Los Fresnos handled this whole pandemic when it comes to the athletic side?
I'm just realizing that the cases are increasing all over the valley, and health and safety of all our kids, our teachers, everyone else is the most important thing for everybody and for the elderly. And so even though there has not been a confirmed any cases at all within the school district, as far as student athletes go, they're taking an abundance of caution and suspending the program indefinitely until we get a better handle on all this.
Mr. Hinojosa?
Well, I can tell you about the Brownsville School District. It's we've also been trying to facilitate all these things. Right now, Coach Leal is just I'm sure he's just very determined to make sure something happens as far as getting his players ready. But the only thing that we can do right now is try to set up the facilities, get them ready for the games, if there are games. I know that we've got some improvements on some of the stadiums going on, and I do know they'll be better before the season starts. But I tell you what, someone has to make a decision for them to play.
Mr. Guerrero?
The kids, first of all, the most important things that we have, most important bodies that we have to worry about. I've been a football official now for going to my 33rd year. And what's important for us is we have to be ready when the UIL or TASO say that we're going to have games. Now, the Football Officials Association is also taking a proactive approach, and we're checking ourselves out, whether our older officials are going to be able to get on that field. So it's very important for us. But it's really, it's important for the kids. We have to do it right for them. Football, maybe lasts for 3 months out of their lives. They're seniors, and their life lasts forever. So we got to worry about them first.
As an official, looking at it with the possibility of one, there might not be a season, but if there is a season, the possibility of playing a game with no fans, just how different would that be on a Friday night?
Well, as a football official, we're there for those 22 kids on the field. And I like to tell everybody that I like to officiate the game for Grandma Rosita sitting on the fourth, that 50-yard line. I think what's going to happen if we come back, there's going to be a home team with the band and pep squads and cheerleaders on the side on the track. And there's not going to be a band or cheerleading squad or pep squad on the visitor side. I think that's what we're looking at. Guy, I'm even thinking that we're not going to start football in September, but start in October. These are all scenarios that's being talked about with UIL and with TASO. I have a 7-man crew, and we started doing Zoom training 2 months ago. And so we're going to be ready. There's going to be 126 crews that are going to be ready when they tell us to get on the field.
Absolutely. And I know we just saw that. I know UIL is the intention is that there will be fall sports come the fall. And I think I talked with Coach Iglesias about this. I believe there will be sports, but I do believe it'll be late, like you said, in October, maybe as late as November when it comes to volleyball, football, and cross country. Shifting gears just a little bit, we're going to get to know you guys just a little bit more for the people out there watching. Again, we're joined by Coach Iris Iglesias, Manuel Hinojosa, Ronnie Zamora, and Tony Guerrero, all on the RGV Sports Hall of Fame committee. Thank you guys for joining us again. And we're just going to, like I said, get to know you guys a little bit more. Mr. Hinojosa, let's start with you and just share your background and what you've done here in the Rio Grande Valley.
Well, I've been an architect all my life, and currently I'm the district architect for the Brownsville School District. Being an architect, as long as I have, you get to work with the different school districts, whether it's educational facilities or even athletics facilities. That would have been something that I've enjoyed doing. And believe me, in the Valley, architects work in school districts. That's our bread and butter. But I've always been a sports enthusiast. I mean, sports been my life since I was in high school, and one of my pastimes is painting. I love to paint sports figures, and I'd love to get their signatures and sort of collect anything that has to do with sports. It's a big hobby of mine, and I attend as many sporting events as I can.
How about the Tom Landry Mural, Manuel?
Yeah, I was going to do that. You hadn't done it. I was going to do that.
So I like to paint, and they did give me an assignment that was a little challenging, and that was the Tom Landry Mural in Mission. Matter of fact, they asked me to do that, and I never thought that they want to paint a half a block, building with a mural on it, and I took on a challenge. It took me a year, but it finally was done.
Wow, I didn't know that you were the one who painted it. I love that mural. My uncles from Michigan, they're Cowboys fans. When they come down, I always make sure they always want to go by and see it at least once. So they love seeing that Tom Landry mural up there in Mission. So that's definitely a cool story. Ronnie, I know you and I have a little bit of familiarity with each other, running into each other on sidelines or baselines or a softball field. But still, what's your background? I know you have a long history with the papers and different stuff like that.
I recall long, 49 years ago was my first byline in a newspaper when I was a junior in high school. That's been a long time. And I was a newspaper sports writer for about 10 years in the 70s and 80s. Worked in the news side, the newspaper, the Brownsville Herald. I worked at the Star also, San Antonio Live, the Daily Texan when I was at college at UT Austin. But I've been in education PR for the last 32 years, but still had my hand in sports and dabbling in sports history and being a part of this organization is something I really enjoy doing. There's just so much and so many people we want to really recognize for everything they've done and over the years and try to do it properly and kind of compare apples with apples with the achievements of everyone. So that's really been more of my project now than being more of a sports writer like you have been doing. And that's kind of what I love to do.
How long have you been in Los Fresnos?
I've been there 8 years. I was at UT Brownsville, Texas Southwest College for 22 years, including 6 as a sports information director. We had athletics over at UTB, TSC.
Definitely, because I know probably right around when I got started, you were there in Los Fresnos, and I just remember if you need to know anything Los Fresnos, just ask Ronnie.
That's what happens when we get old. We know a lot about the old times.
Mr. Guerrero, how about yourself?
I was born and raised in Edinburgh, raised in Mission. I come from a long line of football players. My dad is 96, and he's the last living member of the 1941 Tom Landry team. So my dad did play with Tom Landry back in 1941. I got into football officiating. I knew I was not going to play college football, so I got into officiating. I'll be celebrating my 34th year of football officiating this year. And I got involved with the Dorados of the AFL League, AFL 2 League, and National Football League. And after the Dorados folded, I got involved and got hired by the NFL as an observer scout for 13 years. And they'd actually send me to college games on Saturdays, and I observed the football officials on the field with a chance of promoting them into the ADP school. And my task was to promote minorities. And at that time, minorities were women and Hispanic officials. And we were able to get one Hispanic official from the Valley, Hugo Cruz, into the NFL for 4 years. And the 2 women there, Sarah's still there. And that was a joy to do. The reason I joined the Sports Hall of Fame a long time ago was, we're stewards of the athletes of the Valley, of the history of the athletes in the Valley, and I think we do a really good job. So yeah, that's what I've done.
That's really interesting about your dad playing with Tom Landry in 1941. I'm currently watching the baseball documentary by Ken Burns. I'm sure you guys have seen it. And I was talking to my dad last night that Mr. Ronnie knows I love the Astros. So I like the Astros, by the way.
What's that? Movie season tickets.
Yeah.
Well, I was watching the episode with the Shadow Ball, and I do not like the Yankees, but I always liked Joe DiMaggio. And 1941 was the year he had the 56-game hit streak. So right. I was like, well, we all know that was impressive, but I did not know the backstory of it was when his 56-game hit streak got snapped, he then went on a 16-game hit streak. When that got snapped, he then hit safely in 72 of the next 73 games. I was like, wow. I was like, I don't like the Yankees, but I like Joe DiMaggio just a little bit more now that I know that little backstory. But the year 1941 kind of just stuck out to me. I was like, wow, so the same year DiMaggio was there, your dad was playing football with Tom Landry. That's pretty neat.
There you go.
Coach Iglesias, how about yourself? And your background.
Kevin, I was born and raised here in Mission. I went to all the schools here in Mission. Came back, started coaching, and hired in '80, and spent my 34-year career here at Mission High, and enjoyed every minute of it. And coaching different sports, you know, the longest one being girls softball, and that's where I ended up. So, but yes, I mean, as far as the Rio Grande Valley Sports Hall of Fame, I am the president of the board. We are a 20-member board. Unfortunately, we just lost Roy, who was also one of our board members. But, you know, to be around these gentlemen, I got hooked into the Hall of Fame, so to speak, and to be around these gentlemen and the other female coaches or females that are involved in the board has been really what a pleasure. You know, the knowledge and the history and the things that they want to do as a board, and make sure that we recognize those that have brought notoriety to the Valley, you know, and even to the sport themselves or to the Valley itself. So we try the best that we can, and you know, and trying to do this. So that's the purpose, you know, and to have this the board members that we do have, boy, we get a lot of information, you know, that's brought to us, and you know, anyone that can apply if they want to, or nominate someone that to go in there to be inducted. You know, we do our best in getting that done. The committees that are formed to do that. So, you know, it's just a great organization to be a part of. You know, I feel honored to be a part of it. And I think it's just something that is great for the RGV, the Valley in itself.
Absolutely. Mr. Hinojosa, if you want to continue on that, on being a part of the committee and what it stands for and what you guys do for athletics.
Well, I mean, the Hall of Fame has been around for a while. It's about 30 years, and there's been members have always been really active. One of the things that has impressed me from the very beginning is how serious they look at a candidate. I mean, we scrutinize and look at everybody. There's so much talent in the Valley, and the Hall of Fame was members. They know the players that have excelled in any sport throughout the years, and the discussion is just fascinating because you learn so much about what's going on. And I think that whoever gets chosen in the Hall of Fame really deserves it, because they've really been looked at and analyzed and appreciated. So when we have that induction, you look at them walking up there, and you know that these are the Hall of Fame. These are the best in the Valley, and they're going to be finally recognized as a group. And to me, that's just makes me just feel good.
Ronnie, you want to chime in?
Yeah, we have a lot of nominations for that, and we as a board also go out and seek people who we think deserve to have nominated for that and get information about them. And people think it's so easy to get in the Hall of Fame. We have over 120 people in our pool. And so within that, we have to break them down by the different categories of what they are. So then comparing, for example, all football coaches together, all baseball athletes together, all the different categories all together, and seeing who has kind of risen and has a great achievements over the years, not just in their high school days. They might have played college sports, they might have been a coach in professional or did anything in the professional ranks. And so we have to look at kind of everything that everyone does, and realizing there's so many other people who are deserving, but we can only induct between 7 and 9 people every year to have a first-class banquet for them. And so we do the best we can for it, and realizing we know we disappoint a lot of people by not being able to induct who they think are deserving of it. But it's a very difficult task for our board of directors to do, but we do the best we can and try to make it even and equal, that everyone who is going to be inducted is really deserving of it.
Guerrero?
You know, it's real hard to follow up after those three, but you know, it's important that, you know, we have a lot of names, and people don't understand that the only people that vote for the ballot for the inductees, and we've been limited to seven to 9 a year. but the only people that vote for the inductees are the 120 or 123 inductees that are alive. So that's how many vote. And we have a pool of over 140 people. We narrow it down to 20 different people on the ballot, and then 120 people vote for their fellow inductees. It's impressive the way it comes down to the wire, but it's cut and dry. If you're an inductee worthy of being an inductee that year, there's a reason why you were voted.
What you can share, Coach Iglesias, what are some requirements for someone to make the Hall of Fame?
Well, it's mainly bringing notoriety to themselves and the Valley down here that Mark said on there. That's probably one of the main, what kind of input, or what they've done. So that comes in along with, we get their bios and, the committee that goes to them, and then that kind of thing. And it breaks down as what you've heard here. So we get a lot of even some stories and resumes and bios that we didn't even know existed here. And it's truly amazing of some that someone did, or in the past, or whether they went on to play college, when professional, or as a coach, they did this and that, and bringing notoriety. I think the Valley is showing some really good recognition, getting throughout even the state here, as far as, hey, we've got, our teams and even individuals are going up, becoming state champions and that kind of thing. Also on our website, it worked real hard and was putting their individual state champions. It's listed in there, even the teams, which they're still working on it and trying to put in pictures and team pictures, individual, so on. So to add to that, because I think the Valley, we're very rich here in the history part, and I think it needs to be, brought out, and everyone can do that,
Absolutely. Going back full circle, we're going to switch gears just a bit and talk about maybe some things that stood out to you in your career, or maybe, a story that you guys would like to share. Ronnie, we'll start with you.
Mine goes back a long, long way, but some of my favorite days when I was a college student at UT Austin in the 70s, and I was in the newspaper, Daily Texan, and got to see and cover a lot of events all over the state and actually over the country. I got to go even across the country for some track meets and things like that. But one of my favorites probably was when I was at a game in December of '76. I know that's been way before you were born, Kevin. And just sitting in the stands and hearing that Coach Royal, that he may retire after this game. And that was kind of the rumor during the day for that. So after the game was over, I went down toward the locker room, realized I didn't have a pass. I wasn't working the game. But the locker room was closed to reporters. Everyone was outside because something was going on. Apparently, Coach Royal was talking to his team. We had a young sports fighter there, a female, who was nervous about it because there was so many media there. And I told her, hey, give me your press pass and notepad. I'll do it. And so I went in, and another reporter went into the press conference where Coach Royal was talking to the media. And I interviewed all of the players, as many as I could, talk about Coach Royal. Yes, he had resigned after all. And so it was a nice story I did, and it was all the quotes of Coach Royal. The Texan put it as the cover page, So Long Guerrero. I probably could, it's on the website actually too, that I got to write. Got him to autograph it years later. And not after he passed away, I donated that framed article to the tea room over at UT Austin, and it's in Coach Royal's collection for that. And so that was probably one of my moments that I remember from a long, long time ago.
Oh. Awesome.
And the Earl Campbell days and Johnny Lanjone days too. Knew Earl Campbell well.
Mr. Hinojosa, anything, a story or anything that stood out to you?
Well, since we talk about these inductees, you think about, we talked about Tom Landry, and a lot of times you look at the ripple that these guys had. Here's a coach of America's team, or recently we lost Bobby Morrow a couple of weeks ago. This man was the fastest fastest man in the world, you know, going to the Olympics at 56. And I remember, you know, I remember these guys, Bobby Morrow, when we celebrated his 50th anniversary, and Ronnie, and we went and had a little celebration for him. Ronnie brought some film of him running and saw tears come out of his eye. Just the effect, or when Tom Landry, we were at the mural. I'll never forget, Tom Landry introduced me as his friend, and I was so honored. Recently, one person that got to be a really good friend of mine was a horse jockey, and he was inducted to Hall of Fame. His name was Hinojosa, and I followed his life for. It was an amazing where again he was in that ripple effect, running in the big Triple Crown races, in the big stage, in the lights in New York and everything else, from the Valley, going outside of here. Those stories just excite me. I'd love to talk about them. I love to listen to them, and I think that's what it's all about. That's what we live for. We watch Sunday football or basketball and especially baseball, but we live for those little those stories that are in a bubble, you know, and we go back to them and rethink them. And I think we all pretty much do the same thing as sports fanatics.
I agree. Coach Iglesias?
Oh, no, you know, these guys said it all, you know, just about. I mean, in my career, you know, yes, there are several. I think I just was blessed to work with such amazing, you know, fellow coaches. Also with having the, you know, being, I thought it was special in order to be able to work with teenagers, girls. And, you know, I had such great players. And, you know, bottom line, they were just great kids and very respectful. And so to pinpoint one thing that came in, and maybe it'd have to be the, you know, in the playoffs back in 2000 when we went the furthest to the final 8 in softball, and something new for all of us and everyone else. And the beginning of softball, I think back when we started our program in 95, it had just started. So I felt, you know, this was a great sport for girls. You know, it was quick and there, you didn't have to have, you know, a certain height. You didn't have to be, you know, a certain skill level. You could learn the game. And so I thought was a sport that really could explode and go, and all girls could get involved in it. And sure enough, you know, they did. There was a lot of learning involved. You know, we went to a lot of camps and clinics, and as coaches trying to just take in so much and then pass it on to the kids. And then you can see where, compared back then to now, the level of play is just tremendous. You see girls getting scholarships to play everywhere. And I think that just needs, you know, it's just awesome to see. And I think UTRGV needs to bring in a girls softball program, you know, and I think they would be very competitive.
Before we go, Ronnie, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining the show. Ronnie's gonna have to step out. Before you go, Ronnie, quickly, if you could just share something on Roy Hess, and then before you go.
Oh, Roy Hess, so many stories I had with Roy. I was in the Star Sports Editor in '78 when he walked in as an intern from Oral Roberts University, and first thing I thought was, why would a guy from Nebraska and Oral Roberts want to come down here? But he did. He got used to it. We loved him. He did a great job. The only person ever to be sports editor of all 3 papers, Brownsville, Harlingen, and McAllen. Very good friend of mine. Was in our fantasy football league since 1988. And all the time. And so that's what I remember most about him. But what I wanted to leave also is people check out our website. There's a wealth of information on there, RGVSHOF.net. And as Iris was mentioning, there's a lot of historical information there. All 265 inductees, our information is about there, listed about each one of them. And you can find a lot of good stuff in the history section if you're a historical buff like Manuel and some of these other people are to that. So invite everybody to come out, check that out. And we also have a Facebook page that we put information on there about. I'll let Iris talk about the event coming up, but I thank you for letting me have you on the program, Kevin.
For sure, Ronnie. Take care of yourself, and then thanks for joining us.
Sure.
Have fun with the little one.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Guerrero, we were with you on maybe a story that sticks out to you, maybe in your officiating days, or what stood out to you?
Well, I've done some big games. I've done some big playoff games, the Bird Bowl, the Naco Bowl, the Battle of the Arroyo. But I guess the one thing that brought the tears to the eyes, I didn't do a lot of games for Mission High School, and there was a reason, because I graduated from there, and I didn't think I needed to be on that football field. It's an ethics situation. But about 2 years ago, Coach Detmer and Coach Gilpin came up to me and says, you know, we're going to have a rededication of the Tom Landry Stadium this year, and we want one thing to happen. And I said, well, what's that? And he says, well, we want your father to do the coin toss. And I said, that's very nice. You know, my father can barely walk, but yeah, he'll manage. And I said, let me go ahead and take off that week. I won't officiate that week in the Valley, and I'll be with my dad. I'll help him out. And he said, no, you don't realize it. We want you to give him the coin in the middle of the field. And well, then I broke a tear. Well, that made it one of the nicest things, because that was the first time my father in 30 years had ever watched me officiate a game. And when I handed him the coin, he says, I don't know how to flip it. You're going to have to help me. So I helped him flip the coin, and Mission won the toss. I'm not going to say which one, Mission High or Mission Veterans, but Mission won the toss. And then the game was played. We had a good time. And then last year was the second year of the Battle of the Conway. And once again, Coach Coy and Coach David came up to me, and you did such a hell of a game last year. We want you to work the game again this year. So yes, I've done a lot of playoff games, but that was the two highlight games of my career. And then being asked, I was hired by the NFL without even turning in an application or a resume. And that relationship lasted for 13 years. And that was, not too many people in the Valley say they work for the NFL. And those are two highlights, and I really enjoyed them.
Absolutely. You know, seeing the way sports is, you know, here in the Valley in 2020, how much has it changed? How much has it evolved? You know, not only, you know, Coach Iglesias and I have gone on about softball, but just from sports athletics in general, how much have you guys seen it change and evolve through the years? We can start with.
Well, I can tell you just the level of play, you know, in all the sports has really looked good. And, you know, our teams are getting very competitive, or, you know, up and as they move on through the playoffs and things like that. So you've got a lot of, you know, parents and kids that are doing a lot of travel ball. They are getting that extra, you know, work, I guess you can say, to excel in that sport. And, you know, it's just, it's important, you know, for everyone that's involved. You know, I think that just shows all the competitiveness around everybody. And, you know, we'd like to, you know, involve a lot of the kids and see what they can do. And, you know, just so it's, you know, whenever you get old in this age like we are, never hesitate to talk about your high school years. You always talk about your high school years and what, you know, you did and friends and so on. So, you know, you just want to make sure that the memories are developed and that they can do all that, you know, be able to do that.
Mr. Hinojosa?
You know, what Iris says is right. You know, there's a tendency for us to compare them to our high school days, and when you do that, there's a big difference. I mean, there's a difference in just where we played, and the field we played, the uniforms we had, and just the overall excitement. There's probably better players, bigger players today than there was back then, the quality of the game hasn't changed that much. You know, it's something that I don't see I don't see a difference, but in either case, I just enjoy it. Enjoyed it then. I enjoy it now.
Well, we have kids that can compete down here, and we prove it every year. You know, we got a quarterback that's on the front cover of Dave Campbell's magazine, Eddie Marburger, tremendous kid, and he's held together by the good Lord, and he lets everybody know it. And our kids can compete. We're competing. No more is the Valley week, playoff week. You know, we're getting up there and knocking some mouths, you know, across that football field. And the kids just believe in themselves. We have better weight. We have better strength coaches. We have better 7-on-7s tournaments. You know, we're representing three teams up at 7-on-7 tournaments year in and year out. I'm privileged to be the district director for the state qualifying tournament down here, and I have no trouble filling a 24-team tournament. The kids know that they don't have to play Division I football. There's nothing wrong with playing Division II and Division III ball, but they all realize one thing: they cannot take that education away from you. And you get up there and you play football, and they give you an education, and it's a hell of a win-win situation. And the kids believe in themselves, and the parents really push the kids, and the kids, you know, push each other. So, and that's in all sports: football, basketball, girls sports. You know, I got a niece that's going to be going and playing in Kansas this year. Stephanie Torres, she played for the veterans last year. So yes, you know, our kids are hungry. They are really hungry down here, and you can see it on the football field. There's no more of the cussing on the football field. Everybody is, you know, everybody respects each other, and that's the way it should be.
Definitely. Before we wrap up, just wanted to touch base on Roy Hess. You know, we all knew him, and just if you guys could just share a couple of words on Roy and what he meant not only to the Hall of Fame committee, because the guy was a walking encyclopedia, but also what he meant to the sports community in the Valley. And Coach Iglesias, we'll start with you.
I'm just honored and just so grateful that I got to meet Roy and know more about him. I knew who he was, what he did, but when he became, when he joined us on the board of the Hall of Fame, you know, whenever any of our discussions went awry, so to speak, or we needed more info, everyone would turn around and look, okay, Roy, what did you think? And it's like you said, he was an encyclopedia. He would just throw everything out and just give us all a bunch of information. And, you know, I just felt he was such a, he gave, you know, an important part, you know, to the board itself. And boy, I'm going to miss him. We are all going to miss him. And I hope that, you know, he will not be forgotten and what he did. And I could tell through all the news media, you guys, Kevin, and how he affected every one of you all. And you could see that. And at the time, you know, and but what a great guy. I'm just really glad I did get to know him.
Mr. Hinojosa? You know, Roy was a gentleman. I mean, he was really a nice guy in the way he approached you. His knowledge of sports, especially boxing. Oh my gosh, if you want to know anything about the history of the Valley of boxing, he knew all the boxers and what they did. He just liked the sport a lot, but it didn't matter. And he was always in the mix when it came to writing about different people. You learned a lot about how he wrote, and one time or another, he wrote about each one of us. And every time he wrote about somebody that we knew, it was going to be very special. He was very considerate. He always had some good things to say about, you know, whoever he wrote. So, Roy, we're going to miss you. He just left life too early for us.
That's right.
Mr. Guerrero?
You know, Roy was a jewel. His knowledge of sports in the Valley, and especially boxing, was impeccable. We have a time limit on accepting the award at the induction ceremony, and that's usually around 7 minutes. The only thing is, somebody forgot to tell Roy that. And he went on for about 32, 33 minutes, and nobody had the guts enough to get the microphone away from him. He went on and on and on, and every time he went on again, it was so amazing. People were just in awe. And what really brought Roy's character to me was at his rosary. And his daughter came up to me and says, you know, she asked me if I was Tony, and I said, yeah, Mr. Guerrero. Said, well, you were the president of the organization when my father got inducted. Yes, your father was special. We as children didn't realize what my father had done. He never came home. He was not a presumptuous man. He never came home and bragged about himself. That was Roy. Didn't even let his family know what he was doing, I guess. But he was a jewel. And for somebody to ever replace Roy, it'll never happen. He was that kind of a special person. I'm going to miss him. I really am. We joked about our health a lot, both of us. And, oh man, we will miss you.
Absolutely. You know, we you know, you spend so much time with these people, you know, they become your family, and, you know, especially during football season, you know, you spend so much time together, on Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights when we're getting our shows together, when we're talking about stats, we're talking about games that are coming up, and we would do our shows Wednesday night, and, you know, we would do it. I mean, deadline's 10:45. We'd get it in by 11. We'd get our show rolling by 11:30 at night on a Wednesday. Roy was there. He was ready to roll. And, you know, anything we needed to know, Roy had it on his in his spiral notebook. If we needed to know how Bishop was doing when Lyford was going to play them, we're like, well, me and the guys like, well, we don't know anything about Bishop. Oh, Roy did. You know, he had their record, he had their scores, he had everything there in his spiral notebook. You know, but for me, you know, being able to work with him these last few years was such a great honor and so much fun. And you know, I know the guys are gonna miss him too. And we actually wrote a special piece on him in our tab that just came out a couple of days ago. So we'll be sure that you guys get a copy of that, and it has a special section in there to Roy. And you know, I always called him the GOAT. And he would always just kind of laugh and shake his head, and, you know, be like, oh, no, Mr. Kevin. And I was like, no, you're the GOAT, Roy. And but I'm definitely going to miss him for sure. But you know, that just about wraps up our show, guys. Coach Iglesias, Mr. Hinojosa, Mr.
Yeah,
Guerrero.
Kevin, I would like to recognize our 2020 inductees real quick,
Right.
Mike, if I may. Just congratulating them. We have Paul Alsbury, who's being recognized for football. We have Coach Paula Dodge, who's being recognized as coaching volleyball. We have Coach Rolando Garza, who from San Isidro, and he's being recognized for basketball. Coach Larry Howe for track and field. Coach Bill Littleton, football, coaching football. We have the official, Mario Reina, who he spent many years officiating also. And then finally, we are honoring also Greg Selber for his journalism and his knowledge also of everything. You know, it's just unfortunate of everything that's happened, you know, with the virus and everything like that. Our banquet was scheduled for the 20th of June 20th, and we rescheduled to August. But then it was finally, we did vote, and we are going to postpone the banquet until next summer, next June, and honor this same group then due to the virus and not wanting to take any chances for them. But this group of the honorees is a great nucleus of, you know, of what the Valley's all about and what they can do. And so we were, you know, very excited about having them, you know, be a part of it. So we are going to honor them next summer instead of this year. And hopefully, you know, we can get that and make it, because we feel that it's got to be a special time for them, and we want to make sure that there weren't any limits or anything like that towards them. So, you know, on the behalf of the board of the Rio Grande Valley Sports Hall of Fame, Kevin, I want to thank you for inviting us on here. We look forward to honoring our inductees and when they come up, and hopefully, you know, be able to give them that special time that they deserve and honor them for what they've done for themselves and the Valley.
And
Tony, did you want to add it?
Kevin, I just want to say the same thing, but I just want to invite you next June. You can sit at our table, all right?
Thank
And please come and become part of the Sports Hall of Fame. I don't know all the athletes. I know the old ones, but there's a lot of young potential athletes that are going to be sitting on that stage, and we need people like you that have done research on these athletes. And there's no requirements to submit a name for consideration into the Hall of Fame. You're put into a pool, and you don't have to be a somebody to fill out the application. Just remember one thing: did you bring prestige to the Valley in your sport of choice or your endeavor? That's what we're looking for. But next June, you'll be my invitee to the banquet.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan to me.
Beat me to it.
Sounds like
You
a plan
beat
to
me
me. Thank
to it, Tony. Yeah.
you.
Manuel, did you want to add anything?
Mr. Hinojosa, would you like to add anything before we wrap up?
No, thank you very much for inviting us on this show. I mean, it's been an honor to be here and taking part in this, and we hope to be involved in many more other events that you put on. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I know, Coach Iglesias, you and I chatted about maybe having the inductees on this show at some point soon.
Wow.
So I know that's something we're excited about having soon. So whenever you guys are ready, we're ready to roll when they're ready.
We want to make it happen, and we're working on it, and hopefully it can be very soon. They deserve that time, and I think it would be awesome to see them.
Definitely. Well, again, Coach Iglesias, Mr. Hinojosa, Mr. Guerrero, thank you guys for taking the time out of y'all's schedule to come on here and just talk about you guys' journeys, talk about the committee. And I'm hoping that we can see some sports in the fall. We're a couple months away to seeing some sports. So thank you guys, and we will see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.